My name is Louis Strong, and welcome to my third season of Headstrong, the podcast where I sit down with a variety of people in the public eye to talk about their lives, their careers, but importantly, every aspect of their journey through all the highs and lows, to try and give you, the listener, an opportunity to learn what it means to be headstrong, to believe in yourself, to talk about your vulnerabilities, and reinforce your self-worth. Now, 2020 has been a roller coaster of emotions for all of us. The pandemic has given us perspective with our own lives, particularly when it comes to our way of life and working. As a result, I wanted to talk to people who deem themselves self-employed and creatives. So this season is called Creatives in Conversation. In this season, I am talking to a widespread group of people, from actors to comedians to influencers and a drag queen. I am incredibly excited for you to hear the conversations with my guests. For this first episode of Season 3, I sat down with magician and YouTuber Archie Manners. Now, Archie is a larger-than-life character, and he breathes energy into every single room that he walks into. We talked about his rise to stardom on YouTube with his partner Josh Peters, and some of the pranks he's done recently, including with Katie Hopkins and Tiger King's Carole Baskin. I really, really hope you enjoy this episode, and stay tuned at the end to see who else is on Season 3. Hello, Archie.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. How
are we
you?
going now?
We are going.
Fantastic.
We find ourselves sat in your office here.
I know, I'm like Jeff Bezos. It's luxury, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's
I mean,
absolute
do
luxury.
you know what? It's actually nice to have a nice blue-skied view. That's quite
It is.
nice.
It's quite similar to the view Ghislaine Maxwell has currently got, I think. It's a tiny sort of 6x4 whitewashed walled prison cell, but I love it.
How long have you been here?
About a month, literally a month. So Josh Peters and I, who's my business partner on YouTube, took this little place over, and we spent £1,000 on IKEA, which I think you should be nominated for an MBE for. It's basically impossible. So we had the hellish experience of walking around IKEA, and we are now here. It's great.
I love it. Why did you guys get the office kind of a month ago? Was that a move because you were struggling to work at home, or was this just a progression in business?
To be honest, I don't really know. Josh always wanted one. I think there's probably a slight ego. It's a bit like, when you say to me, can I come and do your podcast? It's quite smart to say, meet me in the office. Most of it, it's like 90% ego, and then 10% maybe we'll work harder if we're here. And actually, to be fair, we have, because it kind of has the routine of making sure you're in by 9, 10 or 11 sometimes, and then kind of leaving it. And you do kind of have that separation between home and work, which is nice. However, if you're in the creative industries like I am, you cannot think in an office. It is not conducive to it. So I tend to Josh is here all the time. He tends to run the kind of commercial side of the channel. I tend to look after the creative side. There's a lot of crossover between us. So he'll tend to be here more than I am, and I tend to just sort of go on long walks and run around and try and find inspiration from other places. But it's been really helpful, actually.
I mean, there's a massive blurred line now because of lockdown between working environments and home environments, with everyone working at home.
Yeah, although I don't think they are working
Not
at home.
necessarily.
I think they're sitting at home and being paid to do so. I watch my flatmate work from home. I've never heard such nonsense. Working from home whilst got Piers Morgan on the background, you're smoking cigs every 5 minutes, then a delivery comes, which is huge. It's not working from home at all. It's being employed by the government to sit around.
Where did you find yourself in lockdown?
I locked down in London, which was lovely. I didn't mind it. I mean, I don't want to do it again. It was. It's like a threesome, like, if you know what I mean. Like, fun to try, but probably don't need to repeat it.
So if lockdown came down, the second wave came down,
I'm not
you'd be moving
participating.
out?
I'm making my position very clear here. Very happy for other people to have a second lockdown if a second wave comes. I will not be doing it.
I love it.
I'm going to be one of those awful people that resists lockdown. No, of course I'm not.
Did you relish the time, though, as a kind of an opportunity for potentially new creative projects or self-engagement?
No, it was fucking miserable.
Oh, really?
Of course it was. I couldn't see anyone. Like, it depends what industry you're in, but like, if you're creative, your brain can only spit out what goes into it, right? Your brain is entirely determined by inputs, and then ideally you spin them around and you output something more interesting. And during lockdown, the only input was a screaming Piers Morgan, Boris Johnson and the two bald musketeers, and the sort of 5 o'clock press conference that everyone tuned into like it was bloody Love Island. And that was it, and alcohol. And those are not conducive. So I had one good idea, which we put into practice, which turned out to be the video we did on Carole Baskin. Other than that, I found it creatively draining and quite tiring. So no, I'm not doing it again.
So what was your tipple of choice for the period?
Anything. Literally anything. I panic bought. Most people panic bought loo roll. I decided if I didn't buy food, I wouldn't need the loo roll, so I just bought alcohol. And I had a very successful bit. Yeah, I mean, I drank a lot of Corona lager. Because that was on
Which
offer.
are
Because everyone
always on
thought
offer.
you might get Corona by drinking Corona, because a lot of people are not that clever. So that Sainsbury, Lord Sainsbury, I'd like to give a special shout out to him, because he discounted that by 50%, which is very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so during lockdown, with your partner, fellow YouTuber Josh, you did release content, and you had some amazing content. Was a lot of it pre-recorded in terms of some of the other ideas? Because you did have the Katie Hopkins one come out during lockdown.
No, that came out just before. So we filmed that in January. That came out on Brexit Day. That's like the only way I remember it.
Okay.
It came out on the 31st of January, so that was about a month beforehand. And then we didn't upload till May the 2nd, so we took a long extended break, and that was the kind of lockdown content.
Yeah, sure. And so how do you and Josh conceptualise your videos? How do you sit down there and come up with the ideas? Do you sit down and actually brainstorm? Or if you have an idea when you're sitting on the bog, for example, do you just write it down and say,
it's
we've
the
got it?
hardest thing. Making the videos is easy. What we do is always quite duplicitous. So as long as you're comfortable with the idea of lying to celebrities to an extent, then that's easy. The coming up with the ideas is impossible. Almost all of it comes from reading newspapers, reading books, just constantly thinking. Everything I look at, almost, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, could this be a video? Could this be a video? Could this be a video? And then I tend to come up with like 500 ideas, and then Josh will be where he's really talented is by going yes, no, and ciphering out the 499 that are completely useless. So to give you an example, the Carole Baskin video, which was where we tricked Carole Baskin and indeed a bunch of other celebrities into thinking that they were on late night American talk shows. But what we actually did was record questions from late night American talk show hosts that were given to normal celebrities, and then when they came on Zoom, we told them they wouldn't be able to see the host, they'd only be able to hear him, and we just played the questions back to them, so effectively they're being interviewed by a computer. And that started by watching a woman called Helen Waitley, who's the care minister, being skewered by Piers Morgan on Good Morning Britain. And Piers Morgan picks up this copy of the Daily Mail and goes, "Look at this headline, Minister, look at this headline." And she goes, "I can't see you. I can only hear you." And I suddenly thought, bingo, if you can't see the host. And the idea then fully formed. And then it's a case of going, if you've got the idea, you've got the solid device, you then need to have interesting people, because no one just wants to see that with not famous people. So then it was like, okay, let's try and get them one woman nobody in the world can interview. Which at that point was Tiger King's Carole Baskin. So we did, and with a huge amount of luck, we got her.
How did you even start that process? Who did you contact for? Did you go to
I went to her website. She has the zoo she runs, which she wouldn't call a zoo, she'd call it a sanctuary. Has a website when you can just submit a press inquiry, and it comes back with an automatic response going, Carole Baskin does not do interviews, because of course literally everyone wanted to get in touch with her. And then so we thought, fine, but I emailed again saying, are you sure? We won't talk about Tiger King. That was the one thing she didn't want to do, was talk about Tiger King, because she felt that Netflix had screwed her over. Yeah. The great joy is I couldn't make her talk about Tiger King because Jimmy Fallon hadn't done that, so I didn't have him talking about Tiger King, so I couldn't ask her either. So I emailed back saying, are you sure we won't talk about Tiger King? Happy to put it in the contract. She emailed back saying, yes, I'm sure I don't want to do it. And then 2 days later she emailed again going, actually, do you know what I do? Why not? And we,
I mean, with a name as well from an American talk show like that, she's probably going, 2 days, and then suddenly going, actually,
suddenly going,
I want that fame. I want to sort my personal.
I don't even think it is fame. It was more she was running this campaign in America. Well, possibly. I don't know. I mean, Carole Baskin has been very helpful to me, so I'm not gonna say so.
Exactly.
I love Carole. She's wonderful.
Did you see the feedback from that as well? From her, she said, actually, do you know what? Good on them.
Yeah, she did, because we didn't skewer her.
Yeah.
So a couple of days ago, actually, an Australian comedian used Cameo, the website where you can get videos from celebrities personalised, to ask her to do a shout-out to Rolf Harris for all the good work he's been doing. Now, that's sort of horrible and just taking advantage of her ignorance. We kept the bit in the video, in the edit, where she shouted out her campaign, and we didn't ask her about Tiger King. It was a bit of fun. And actually, because it was Carole Baskin's first interview, and it was kind of done in a pranky way, I venture to be arrogant enough to suggest more people watched it on our YouTube channel because it was a prank than would have done if she was actually on Jimmy Fallon that night. So, no, she was really happy about it, which was nice, whereas Katie Hopkins, obviously, much less happy.
Was there ever a follow-up from Carole?
From Carole? Yeah, well, no, just she did email me to say thank you very much. My campaign's done really well. Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah,
so you know what? It's actually a win-win.
Exactly as she intended. Yeah, it was everybody won.
Well, that's pleasing. So but maybe when something like that happens with you and Josh, do you ever start a venture, and then actually halfway through you're like, oh, this is flopping.
Yeah,
this is no good.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. We tried to list Buckingham Palace on Airbnb in February. I thought it'd be very funny to have a bunch of tourists turn up and go, "We have booked this place. Let us in." And unfortunately, Airbnb's sort of systems are slightly cleverer than our attempt. But I had this whole thing, I wanted to do Buckingham Palace, the London Eye, Tower of London. I just thought it would cause chaos. But no, it didn't happen. So yes, often we do. Often for legal reasons rather than impractical ones. but also often because, if you play the game we do, which is kind of tricking people, sometimes they're going to cotton onto it.
I think Joe Lycett managed to do something similar. I think Buckingham Palace may be the step too far, considering it is the palace of Her Majesty the Queen.
Yes, it is a step too far. Clearly was, but it would have been funny.
It would have been hilarious. But I mean, the one thing I asked that was because the video that I was talking about before we started recording was about the quail's eggs, where you bought some quail's eggs in a supermarket and you intended to hatch them, or at least one of them, to see if these supermarket eggs were viable for
we
producing.
Hatched 3 of them, but unfortunately we had 2 stillborn. It was a very sad day, but we did bring life into the world. It was unbelievably lucky. It was very weird, again, talking about where you get the ideas from. I read in a newspaper that some scientists had done studies where like 5% of eggs sold in a supermarket were fertile. And I thought, madness, let's try this. And so we bought 50 eggs. Josh was like, why the hell are you doing this? This is not possible. There's literally no way it's going to work. And the 200 quid incubator off Amazon whacked them in and cooked them for a while. And Josh still had no faith. Josh went to America for a meeting or something. So my job, weirdly, for like 3 days, for like 3 weeks, was being this kind of peculiar quail midwife, where I had to turn the eggs every day, go into his flat, which is where we used to work. And and then suddenly this quail hatched. And I mean, I could not believe it. It was like the most joyous. Oh God, I'm craving a video like that again. It's just
I've never seen such excitement from an individual.
Oh, it was amazing.
For a tiny little. I mean, obviously the concept is very original and like incredible, but actually, like just actually seeing a chick come out of an egg, it doesn't happen every day.
No, it does. Well, it probably does happen every day, but just not necessarily. Otherwise, I think we'd have a shortage of roast chicken. But yes, to us, it definitely doesn't happen every day. It was amazing. If I ever become a father, I think I'm going to have a stroke because I got pretty excited at the birth of a quail. So I dread to think how I'm going to react to a baby.
This is probably the question that needs to be answered. Where is that quail? What did you do with that quail?
I'm pleased to inform listeners. So the quail went to be named. It was christened by Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson. We took it to a press junket where they named it, which was quite fun. So it's had a very nice life. It was born in Zone 1. It's had a meet and greet with Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson. It's now at Godstone Farm in Surrey, which I highly recommend if you're into farm parks, which is a niche thing to be into. But it's living there, and we are now grandparents. In fact, we're now great-grandparents. Its children have had children.
Wow,
so, talk about legacy.
I was just about to say the word legacy springs to mind.
But yes, it is alive, it is well.
As we talk about there with you and Josh, YouTube is very much your place of business and income. For many, it's a place of enjoyment.
Yes.
And finding that kind of relationship is probably interesting because it's such a hugely competitive market that you obviously want to be able to succeed to make your money. How did you find building the platform when you started getting involved?
Well, I didn't. I did the very Archie Manners thing of inheriting 1 million followers. Which, if you listen to my voice. So Josh Peters set up the channel and he built it up to 1 million followers. I started working for him when he was on about 900,000 or something. So he'd obviously, done very well. That's more of a question he would answer as to how he did that. And then we struck gold in terms of finding each other. We work together super well. We're best friends. We argue like cats and dogs, but by 5 o'clock it's all fine and we go for a beer. And I then carried on working for him, and then he very kindly suggested that we go into partnership together. So overnight, I became a YouTuber. Beforehand, I was just a guy that made videos on the internet occasionally.
How did you guys meet each other?
I did a series called Archie Asks on YouTube, which he really enjoyed. I think he may have been the only one, because they've got like 1,000 views each or something. They did okay on Facebook, where I go around interviewing members of the public at events. So I go up to people at Wimbledon and ask them fake news questions and see if they just run with it.
I loved it. I remember watching them all.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun, but they don't, in order to do super well on YouTube, you have to have a kind of bit of a following, which I obviously don't. So he saw those, and that's how we started working, did a few videos together. So the egg, I was working for him for that. That was our kind of first big one. Then we signed up on Uber, but drove a tank around London as an Uber and picked people up. And then we did a prank on Reality Stars where we sent them bits of gravel but told them they're pieces of the moon and see if they put them on their Instagram. And then it kind of went from there. And then the first one we did in the kind of joint venture was the Carole Baskin video. So everything up till then was us two working together, but I was working for him.
So you've briefly touched on your relationship in terms of working there. In terms of you being the creative side, and Josh taking the lead on the production. There's a huge
amount of crossover between the two, in that it wouldn't work without each other.
Of course.
He tends to be very good at dealing with the kind of commercial side of things.
Sure.
And I find that really uninteresting.
I mean, both of you have got some great friends and some good places.
which helps sometimes.
Of course does help on occasion.
In terms of, I don't know how interesting contacts is. Like, we very rarely use our contacts when we're creating. The one thing we did a parody music video of a Lewis Capaldi song where we rewrote his song, I can't remember which one it was, but we rewrote it about STDs anyway, and we thought it would be really fun to, in the music video for this parody, to get an orchestra. And I was like, I can get an orchestra. It's like, I don't think we're ever going to get an orchestra. And I happen to have a friend who runs an orchestra.
Of course,
so
very Archie Manners thing to say.
2 days later, we were with the London Musical Theatre Orchestra, which is conducted and run by a guy called Freddie Tapner, who's got more talent in his little finger than I could ever dream to have. And so we had Josh standing there in front of all these quite serious musicians going, I've got herpes from a blow-up doll. And they were all there playing along. So, sometimes we do, but most of the time not.
No, of course. I was just thinking, just because of... well, it's not relevant, actually. I'm just now riffing. I was enjoying the conversation. But let's look at some of your recent videos. And, of course, the one that got everyone talking when you broke your silence with Katie Hopkins.
Lovely Katie.
Of lovely, lovely Katie. Need I ask this question? Why did you choose her?
Because she's a...
Very good.
Am I allowed to say that word?
Well, you have now.
Yes. Why did we choose that? Because two reasons. It's a question we asked a lot, and it's really important. You cannot string somebody up like that when you have a platform just for the hell of it. It'd be very easy for me to pump out a video a lot of people would enjoy on a minor reality star and who's done nothing wrong. That's not fair. Katie Hopkins is an abhorrent human being in terms of her views, and she justifies it by freedom of speech. And I think she has the right to say any view she wants. I think freedom of speech is key. It is the crux of comedy, and I think it's under threat at the moment in quite an alarming way.
Definitely.
But if she has the freedom of speech to make jokes about Muslim people, then I have the freedom of speech to make a fly to Prague and call her a
Absolutely.
So we did. And that was the video probably that put us... If we are on any kind of map, maybe put us on the map.
If you were on a map, what city is Josh Peters and Archie Manners' YouTube channel?
Oh, Luton, I would say.
Oh, really?
I would say we started...
You're on the outskirts.
We started in Inverness, and we're just sort of working our way down the A1, trying not to get caught by the cameras. I reckon, we're sort of slowly trundling to London, but we're definitely not there yet.
As ideas go, it was amazing and fantastic to watch. Why did you guys think, this can't just happen in London? We can't invite her to a dinner here. We need to fly her out to a European country and, really push this idea? What gave it that bit more weight in terms of the legitimacy of that?
She's not stupid. She has some fairly stupid views, but she's not a stupid person. So we thought if we fly her to Prague, the odds of her being more relaxed and thinking that the con was genuine were going to be much, much greater. We chose Prague for a very specific reason. We also wanted to do it in a very expensive hotel. Because if you're going to prank someone in a Holiday Inn, it feels like a prank. If you're going to do it in the Four Seasons, there's like no one spending money on a Four Seasons dinner. And of course, it did cost a lot of money. It was Josh in those days. I was working for him, so he took all the risk, for which I'll always be grateful. And we looked around where the cheapest Four Seasons was in Europe, and that's why we went with Prague, because the exchange rate was good. So yeah, we flew her out there and paid for a flight, paid for a hotel, the whole works, and then sat through dinner with her.
Well, looking at a production like that, because that is a production, people forget that making a YouTube video is actually a film.
It's a short film in a sense.
It's something you got the pre-prod, you've got to do all the research, you've got to have your budget, you've got to have your team, you've got to put everything together, and then actually shooting it, and then of course post-prod and whatnot. Let's start with something. I don't like talking about money at all, but let's look at a video like that. That would have cost quite a lot. So
yes.
How do you guys budget for your channel and your videos?
It does cost quite a lot. It depends. Sometimes we work with brands, so brands will sponsor a video, which that makes life easier. And if a brand is sponsoring a video, then we feel like we can spend a lot more on it, and that makes the integration better and allows us to justify taking money from a brand, because if we're going to spend it on making something good, then rightly the audience goes, well, that's sort of fair enough. Whereas if you're going to take money from a brand and do something appalling, then it's just like you're just taking money from a brand. But yeah, our type of work is very expensive. It usually involves a full crew. Or on the hit element of it, we do the setup, we film ourselves, but when we get to the moment, often involves a crew, often involves legal costs, are hugely expensive. The big winner from our videos is our wonderful lawyer, this guy called Tahir. So yes, I mean, they are expensive. We will it's video to video, we just take a view, is this worth it?
Sure.
Yeah, and of course the big problem is sometimes you have to invest all that money without knowing whether it's going to work. With a film, you can invest that money, you don't know if it's going to play well, but you at least know you're going to have something to show for it at the end.
Yeah.
With Katie Hopkins, by the time she got to Prague, we'd probably already spent some amount of money.
Yeah.
Which makes the risk much greater.
I mean, but yeah, exactly. The risk is there, but I mean, as you say, it comes down to, with a reality star, it's just clickbait for another reality star. But Katie Hopkins, people are like, she's got some very expressive views.
I think we knew that if we succeeded in our mission, which was to get her to a fake dinner and call her a that the video would do well. I think we were reasonably confident that would work. We were absolutely not at all confident that it would work getting her to Prague to be able to call her a
Yeah. Do you have a hit list of people maybe on your notes on your phone that you would like to?
No, and I don't like just targeting people. I get more pleasure probably from hatching eggs because it's nice. No one hates you for that kind of thing. I don't have a hit list. There's a couple of people I would like to. I'd like to mess around with, but no, I certainly don't see it as a hit list. I mean, we're not going to go down the line of Sacha Baron Cohen where we just do that kind of thing.
No, sure, okay.
It's sometimes good, and it is, the Katie Hopkins video, I guess in a sense was, has some sort of legacy. It did shut her up. It did.
Looking at Twitter, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the problem is it's kind of echo chambery in a sense, in that. Before the video, if you hated Katie Hopkins, you hated her. If you liked her, you liked her. I'm not entirely sure anyone's changed their mind as a result of the video. They probably perhaps entrenched their views.
And those probably weren't your intentions. At the end of the day, your intentions were to get her out there and call her.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately our intentions are entertain. That's all I do. However, if there's an added benefit of making a small point, then that's nice sometimes, but we don't seek to do that. No.
I mean, with example to the quail video, it's you. Your channel is about entertaining. It's whilst you are taking the piss out of some people, pranking them, you still have the enjoyment factor on every single video
we're not
that
jealous.
you intend to do.
We don't claim to have some great sort of public service or anything like that. No, our job is to entertain.
Do you have any YouTube or video inspirations? Do you watch anybody for
I tend not to watch that many other YouTubers because there's a lot of great stuff out there and I don't want it to influence what I do. Okay. And I think it's very hard to not be influenced. I mean, there's obviously conscious copying you can do, but even watching stuff, I think sometimes without knowing it, you can kind of borrow ideas and themes and stuff, and I don't want to do that. So I do watch from time to time, but no, not massively.
Just because I'm curious, when you are putting together a video like the Katie Hopkins video, there must be, talking back to that kind of success story, if it isn't going to work, that is it, isn't it, that anxiety of whether it's actually going to go. Do you feel that? Yeah,
massively. Oh, hugely, yeah, particularly when it's your own money on the line. But it's also what makes the video more entertaining, because the audience, when they click on the video, they know we don't lie in our title or our description. So when they click on the video, they know that what we claim to happen will happen. But because we're filming before we know it's going to happen, they can see that, and that's what makes it fun. Are they going to manage to pull this off? How are they going to manage to pull this off? You feel very, very anxious about it. I feel more anxious when I don't have an idea at all. Much more unhappy. Once I've got an idea, because I can then do something about making it work, right? If I've got an idea, I want to do X, well, I can work and keep working, put in more hours and try different things to make sure I can achieve X. If I haven't got X as a target, that's much more anxiety-inducing. Being
a creative, that is, let's just explore that avenue for a second, because it's difficult, because if you do hit that creative wall, I mean, as you just say, that's when you are the most anxious individual. What do you do for influence for your own creative ideas? Because you must be like, oh, if I'm not coming up with any ideas, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to go bowling, I'm going to go cycling.
I run 3 times a week, which has been the sort of best thing I think I've done in my life for myself. I read and read and read. I read a huge numbers of magazines. I read newspapers every single day. It's a horrible thing. I remember when I was younger and I used to listen to people on podcasts and books and things. They go, what's your great advice for life? And people go, successful people read. And I thought, fuck, that can't be bothered. You don't need to read, you just sit and watch. You do. The more you read, the better you are, for me, at my job. But if I'm particularly stuck, I just go for a run. Or go to the pub and get hammered. That also works.
What, and do you come out with it that night or the next morning?
Usually the next morning. I have a little notebook next to my bed where I will wake up often and write something down, and then the next morning I'll look at it. It happened this morning. I looked at my notebook this morning and I just had the word monkey written down. I've not a clue what I was thinking at 3 o'clock this morning when I wrote that down, but probably some good idea. Actually not, probably a terrible idea, but yeah, I don't know what the word monkey means, but it's there. So I'll scribble down in the middle of the night subconsciously.
All right, speaking of monkey then, what is in the pipeline, if you're allowed to say anything at all?
I can't, because we're right in the middle of it.
Of course.
We are right in the middle of a big prank at the moment. We haven't got the person yet, but we're in communication with them.
They're nibbling on the hook.
They are nibbling on the hook. They have started replying to emails, and we are setting a filming date with them. So, yes, we are. Hopefully something will come soon.
And that is all for part 1 on this episode of Headstrong with Archie Manners. If you're enjoying the episode, be sure to click on part 2 to carry on our conversation. If you're also enjoying the episode, please be sure to tell your friends and family and review the podcast on whichever streaming platform you're listening on. See you on part 2. Hello and welcome back to Headstrong. You're listening to part 2 with YouTuber and magician sensation Archie Manners. Let's dive straight in. So you've had an interesting rise to success in what YouTube is, but let's just put YouTube aside for a second, and let's maybe look at where you were born. You were born into a good family. You went to Bristol Uni, right?
I did, yes.
And what did you study at Bristol?
Politics.
Politics.
Been
so that's
very
useful. Yeah.
Oh God, like all university degrees, I love the £36,000 worth of debt. Just so nice to have around, and incredibly useful. I often think about parliamentary democracy and the ways in which we can increase voter engagement.
So where did the creative industries fit in for you then? Are your parents involved in the creative?
No, not at all. My dad's a wine merchant and my mother's a layabout, so no, that's a terrible thing to say. She's not. She's wonderful. No, I've always done it. Magic is my background, so I'm a sort of still full-time professional magician, and I'm still probably spend as much time doing magic as I do YouTube. And so, that's kind of where I started. I think it's probably from naturally being a show-off.
Exactly. So as I was going to say, I mean, you come as a package with charisma, and you've got that outgoing personality.
It's incredibly kind of you. It's all a lie, by the way. Anyone who's very charismatic tends to basically be insecure and quite good actors.
I was just about to say, well, we could always talk about that.
Yeah, it's all bollocks. It's all title bollocks.
Oh well. Let's look at that. Look at that magic avenue then. This is so. You must go over this constantly, but you started that at what age? When did you first take an interest in that?
I think I was like maybe 4.
Was it because you had fidgety hands?
No.
That sounds really wrong, actually.
It did sound really wrong. I was a 4-year-old with fidgety hands, and I couldn't get an erection, so I picked up a pack of cards. No. I was given a Marvin's Magic set by a godmother and got hooked on it, and I was such a prick. Every time my parents had people around for supper, or lunch, I would perform for them in the dining room, but I'd make up my own little tickets that I would sell to them for 50p, and I go around and collect, and I make a sort of £5, which when you're 4 is literally, you're like, I'm never going to have to work. That's a flat in London and a jet. And I used to do that, and then I was that twat who used to always sit at the back of lessons practicing his autograph. I remember doing that vividly. It's still not legible. But nowadays no one asks you for them.
Oh, you've got a nice notepad there with my name on it.
With your name on it. Just in case I forgot your name. I'm incredibly embarrassing to call you Hugo or something.
I like the name Hugo, that's okay.
But yes, so I started, and then I did my first paid show when I was about 11 or 12. I performed at the opening of a village hall for £20, and then I did it all through school. I used to run away from school to go and do it, and then all through university, and then since then... No, and it's been amazing. It's taken me to some incredible places around the world. It's introduced me to some people I'd never be able to otherwise meet.
What is it that you enjoy about it? Because I often speak to people who do learn magic, and then they say that learning the trick itself spoils the magic of it.
Yes, but also most people grow up. Which of course I haven't. I enjoy the reaction and the pleasure other people can get from it. And that's what's fun. It is unlike any other art form in that it does turn grown adults into squealing children. Absolutely. Just for a moment. And I can't think of anything else that does that. That emotional reaction is quite unique to magic. And there are some people that loathe it, but those that love it, love it. And yes, if you do find out the trick, often it does spoil it. And you get other audience members for whom that is their enjoyment.
It must be a magician's worst thing when they go, oh, I know this one.
Yeah, and fine. I mean, great.
Yeah.
Off you pop.
Yeah, exactly. Just sort of.
And what you also statistically don't know it.
And also, I love it.
But it's like going to the Rolling Stones concert and I know this song. Well, yes, you fucking do. That's why I'm here.
I should hope so.
But no, it does happen, but most people are incredibly polite, and I'm lucky in that I perform at kind of parties where often people are quite well behaved.
So obviously live events come into magic quite often, but you have conceptualised this in video as well as a video art form. Why did that come about?
Why did I do that?
You've got your own YouTube channel.
Oh, yes.
Originally.
Yes,
well.
I have one video on it, I think, or 2 videos. I did that purely as marketing.
You have done, but you have distributed magic online.
I've done a bit online. Yeah, I do quite a lot on my Instagram.
Yeah.
But there's some really good Instagram magicians out there with millions of followers who are always going to be better at it than I am. So I tend not to. It's not the same when you watch it on camera.
No.
I've done it on television quite a lot, but not so much online. I tried to do a virtual gig actually during lockdown.
How'd that go?
Appalling. I mean, they clapped, but I couldn't hear because they were all on mute. So they just look
you
like...
can see them.
They look like those kind of Chinese dolls that you get in Chinatown where they're just waving.
Oh, no.
So I'm not going to do one of those again. No, I'm desperate to get back to live performing. It's the one thing I literally cannot wait.
You got anything in the diary? Or, I imagine you can't.
I've got bits and pieces abroad next year. It's the lack of applause, to be honest. That's what I really miss. On Thursday nights at 9 o'clock, I used to go out and just soak it up. I know we were meant to be clapping for the nurses. I was like, give it to me! This is the noise I need.
Oh, I love it. How does it feel being catapulted yourself somewhat now into the spotlight? I mean,
I think it's less of a spotlight and more of a... It's like one of those microscopic torches that dentists use at very most. It's one of those things. It's fine. It doesn't happen very much. After a big video, people will come up to you and say hi, and that's really nice because I have a kind of job most people don't have, where strangers come up and speak to you about it. It'd be quite rare to be walking around Sainsbury's as an accountant and someone just go, "Oh, by the way, Jeff, you're a great accountant. I love that piece of Excel work you did." So in that sense, it's quite nice. It can be quite weird as well.
You're massively outgoing, but how does that? Have you always had that? Did you have to find this out at a young age? Have you always been like this?
I think so. Yeah. I think
as long as you can remember.
As long as I can, definitely. If you look at my home videos as a child, definitely. I think a lot of it comes from if you're at school and you're not sporty, particularly at a sort of very privileged boarding school like I was lucky enough to be, and you're not cool, you can pivot by learning how to be funny. And that's a story that's oft been told by people in the comedy world. And
it's a traditional route.
It certainly applies to me.
Do you ever worry that, for example, just like looking at that, for example, when people do come up to you and do recognise you, that, if the video doesn't go down well, there is that next part of it that is not going to go well. Because I use the example, the very, very famous example of Logan Paul and what happened in the Suicide Forest.
Yes.
And, that must be, because you come up with these ideas, these concepts, and you usually think these are going to be fantastic. And everyone does from a personal creative perspective, but it's how that reaction is
I'm really lucky
received.
In that I've got a bloke called Josh Peters who's very, very, very good at going, "You're mental, no, you can't do that." And yes, sometimes you will overreach. I mean, the anxiety of a video flopping in terms of not necessarily negative publicity, but just in terms of people not enjoying it is also great. We've been very lucky. We've had a run of quite high numbers, and that will end. Of course it will. There'll be somebody better looking and cooler and funnier coming up behind us. So that worries me. But also, I touch wood, we'd never be sort of silly enough to do something like that.
No, sure.
And that's got everything to do with Josh and absolutely nothing to do with me, because I go, "Oh, let's do this, it's fucking great, like 100 miles an hour," and the next thing you know, I've done something terrible on camera. Fortunately, I think Josh would stop me. In fact, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, sure. You've talked about you go running and stuff. Do things ever get too overwhelming for you? Do you ever have to actually give yourself time? Because you like to spend time with people. We talked about your lockdown actually being a terrible experience for you.
Yes.
You love working with people, seeing people.
Yes.
But do you ever actually need that alone time?
Yes, definitely. And less for me and more for my behaviour amongst other people when I'm with them. I try... Because I'm performing in the evenings live often, and I'm working on YouTube during the day in kind of normal times when we're not having to do this anti-social distancing thing, and that means I'm out most nights, and so I do always make sure, like Sunday night, I try my best not to be out, but I can go weeks literally without cooking in my flat because I'm out and about late into the evening at parties and performing or whatever. It's vital to me to have my own time. I tend to go to bed quite early if I can.
Oh, really?
I'll often be in bed by about 10:30, and then read for half an hour and go to bed. I tend not to be up that late.
What's on the bedside table of Archie Manners at the moment?
A notebook, a pen. It's a very good question. What else is on there? Louis Theroux's book.
Brilliant. What do you think?
I'm really enjoying it. Got to get through this.
Yeah.
I've got a great mate who I work with quite a lot called Josh Berry, who's an impressionist, and he came over last week and started reading it as Louis Theroux, and my God, it was hilarious. So I've got that. I've got a photograph of my family, and I've got quite a large photograph of myself as well above the bed, which is quite arrogant.
Why not?
I know, it's poor. I think I might have to go...
You've got to celebrate your own success.
Yeah, there's a line though, isn't there? There is a line. Maybe. A giant photo of yourself above your bed's a bit too far.
With that, it's interesting. You're reading Louis Theroux, so that's an autobiography. Is that what you like reading?
I hate fiction.
Really?
Can't do it.
Me too. I absolutely hate it.
I cannot. So, which is a weakness, I'm sure, because I should enjoy it more. I love reading autobiographies or biographies or non-fiction books.
So, always a creative or sports, or are you open to anything? Anything.
It was a great. I once had dinner. I was performing at a dinner with Geordie Gregg, hosted, who's the editor of the Daily Mail. And I remember saying to him, this is a guy who really does do dinners every single night. I said to him, "Geordie, what happens when you're sat next to someone incredibly boring? How do you do it?" He goes, "It never happens." I go, "Obviously, that must happen." He goes, "No. If I'm sitting next to someone boring, I've failed. If I have not found something interesting, something that interests me before the end of the starter, I've failed because everybody has a story." be prince or pauper, everybody has something interesting. And I think that applies to books too. So I might read a book on a subject that I'm not particularly interested about, but there's always something to learn from it and something to inspire you from it.
Definitely.
So yeah, I'm a great believer in that.
No, I think, I mean, Louis III is a bloody interesting man as well.
Yeah.
And I'm so pleased that he's really lent into the pun.
Yeah, got to get through this.
Yes.
I mean, it's
in
just
case anyone didn't know.
He's really gone for that.
Yeah, he's really
He's wondrous. I'd love to meet him. He'd be on my sort of fantasy dinner party.
He's on a serious podcast rounds, and unfortunately, he wasn't quite up for Headstrong.
Was he not? Did you ask him?
Yeah, I did.
Did he say no?
Yeah.
So rude.
I know. And
he's interviewing like Miriam Margolyes and Stormzy.
He said, so busy focusing on own personal projects. I've seen him on so many podcasts.
Yeah, he's on every
week.
podcast. He's on every podcast. He must hate you.
I know.
He must literally hate you.
I think he must have been like, he's got the same first name as me. No.
What was I going to say about his podcast?
Did you like it? Have you listened to his podcast?
I listened to his Miriam Margolyes one because I adore her.
Yes, lovely.
I think she's tremendous. So I have listened to it. Yeah, it was good.
In fact, another YouTuber, he did KSI.
Yes, well, another YouTuber. I mean, like the guy's a Don.
Have you?
Compared to, I know,
of course. Have you met him?
No, I've never met him. No, I mean he's very good friends with Josh. Well, I don't know if he's very good friends with Josh, but he knows
they
Josh.
know each other.
They know each other well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never met him. He's part of a group I think called the Sidemen. I know some of them, but no, I've never met. His real name is JJ.
Yes, that's
I think.
correct.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I love him. I love him. He interviews beautifully.
He sounds really, really great.
Yeah.
No, that's a good one. So if you want to listen to that.
Well, I will do now.
Yeah. Do you a podcast?
That was what I was going to say. Actually, I have a podcast that's coming out. Which is called Shooting Fish, so I'll plug that. It's not out yet. It's me and an impressionist pranking celebrities. But we asked David Attenborough to come on, because I thought, why not? Be ambitious as we can. So I wrote him a handwritten letter saying, would you come on my podcast? And he wrote back, handwritten.
And the answer is?
Well, the answer was no, obviously. But he did at least write back.
That's very nice.
So I've got a lovely rejection letter from Sir David Attenborough.
And that must be next to your photo above your bed.
That is... No. That wall
wouldn't make the wall.
It's only reserved for me and successors. He's in the little reject pile, which is in the much bigger room next door.
It's funny, actually. I got a letter handwritten back from Judi Dench.
Oh, my God, I love Dame Judi.
Because you did a video with Dame Judi.
Zach and Jay.
Oh, sorry, yes,
I featured on it.
You were on it, yeah.
Yeah, they had this great idea based around the 7 degrees of separation of trying to get the most famous person on a Zoom call. So they got me on as like level 1 and a bunch of other nobodies. And then we all had to invite someone famous.
Who did you invite?
I invited Nathan from Geordie Shore.
Nice.
I just thought he'd be very funny, and he was actually very funny.
Cracking.
And so and then it built up and built up and built up. Before I knew it, me, Nathan from Geordie Shore, and Judi Dench was on a Zoom call with Zach and Jay and a bunch of other celebrities. It was hilarious.
I love it.
Absolute star. Love her.
Yeah, no,
love her.
So I've literally had that letter for like 7 years.
I think we should.
I
think she's such a national treasure. We should make a. I'd like to stuff her when she eventually dies. I think she should. We should. That's what we do with animals. Why? I would like to fuck Madame Tussauds. Stuff Dame Judi Dench in a museum. That's what I'd like to do.
Take it to the taxidermy.
Yeah, totally. I want Dame Judi and Sir David Attenborough to be given the highest honour of all, which is a good stuffing.
Oh, so what else is the future of you? You've got the podcast coming. What's the timeline on that?
Timeline on that is we're recording the first episode in 2 weeks' time, so that will be coming out. And then Josh and I are dipping our toe into the water of television to try and see if we can do what we do with more money behind us, basically on a bigger platform.
I mean, you've worked with MTV before. Is that because that's a similar kind of vibe, actually?
They did Jackass, which I guess is kind of similar. I mean, we'd be open to talking to them certainly. I did a show called The Royal World, which was like Big Brother for posh people, which I presented.
What was that experience like?
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, great team behind it, and I had a lovely time. Yeah, it was great. I just got to go into this big house once a day and sort of tell people what's happening and then leave. It was great.
So
I had to do my own makeup though. Can you believe it? Disgraceful.
I would have turned the job down.
Oh, well, I bloody nearly did.
Needed the money.
Just want the ego. Cameras! Give them to me.
So what's the concept of yours and Josh's TV show? Very similar to your channel.
You'll have to wait and see, but it's. But let me put it like this: it's not going to suddenly be DIY SOS.
I don't see Nick Knowles in front of me here.
Josh and Archie are pivoting from YouTube pranking to 24 hours in A&E as they struggle to become midwives. No, it's along a similar thread. Yeah,
absolutely lovely.
We'll
I ask this question to every single guest on the podcast. I know that we haven't talked a great deal about potentially what it means, but I think it certainly applies to you. What does the word headstrong mean to you?
I think it's have confidence in yourself. Probably. I think believing in yourself and not being scared to admit when you need help.
I love it.
Would be my two things. It's a very good question.
Thank you.
Or, I mean, the alternative answer is it's the word head with your surname put together.
That is exactly what the pun is.
Which is, no, I mean, it's great. What does headstrong mean to you? Has anyone ever asked you that question?
Do you know what? Every single person likes to ask me that.
Do they? God, thank God I did, or I sounded rude.
I did know the question. Oh, I was going to ask you.
Okay.
Have you got a pen before I forget it? And I'll tell you what.
Yeah, you can write it down under your name on this piece of paper.
Lovely.
It is swelteringly hot in here.
Yeah.
We had to turn the fan off so you couldn't hear it.
I can read that. My writing's worse than yours, but I was trying to do
quick.
I was trying to do quick writing.
That's not even quick writing at all.
I know. But what does headstrong mean to me? Interesting. I think definitely what you've said, but I think without the word arrogant, as in headstrong.
As it was my answer. Very
No. But people believe headstrong to be negative. Quite often, and actually being headstrong, I was saying to a guy who I was recording with this morning that headstrong is a journey to become headstrong. You are not born headstrong. Headstrong is something that you become.
That's why you wear a helmet when you're on a bicycle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's about growing into being the person that you are to make your decisions as a confident individual.
Yeah,
and
totally.
As you say, happy to reach out when you need help because everybody needs it.
I totally agree.
When you need it. Yeah. The last question I actually have was, because this is an interesting one, and I know that you'll have an answer to this. What would you do if you were interviewing yourself, if you had to ask yourself a question that, if there was anything out there that you wanted to ask yourself, what would you ask yourself?
I know we've been in lockdown, but why is your haircut quite so terrible? That would be my first question. That's a horror of a question. What would I ask myself?
I know. I mean, there is no right or wrong answer. I was just genuinely curious.
There's definitely a wrong answer. 100% there's a wrong answer. What would I ask myself? I'd probably go, what made you quite such a peculiar individual when you look at the rest of your family? / who are your real parents?
2,000 words.
That would be it.
30 marks.
Yeah.
Love it.
Turn over now. That's almost certainly what I'll be like, because I'm like nothing. I'm like no other member of my family.
It's interesting. I mean, because none of them are in the creative.
Well, they're just normal people, and they're great, but they're not. They don't sort of, get given an amazing education and everything, and then go, oh, fuck that, I'm going to take on magic tricks.
Do they have any kind of reservations about what you do, or
they did originally, certainly.
Sure.
Yeah, huge reservations. Not huge reservations, but they were very much concerned that I, had the most amazing start in life. I was incredibly lucky, and then I thought it'd be more fun to go around with a pack of cards. And sort of, but as it's kind of slowly worked itself out, touch wood for now, they're kind of they love it. Yeah, I think of course they love it. They're very supportive of me.
And fundamentally, that is what a family is for.
Yeah, absolutely. But when it all goes tits up and no one wants to,
they'll be there to pick up the pieces.
I hope so. Yes, but I doubt it. They'll be like, told you so. Go and work in insurance. Like
it's going from strength to strength at the moment. Best of luck with all the TV show, the
very
podcast.
Much. Thank you.
Obviously, the autobiography coming out in a couple of years.
Absolutely. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to call it.
We'll think of something.
I don't know. It's just going to be Very Slim by Archie Manners. It's going to be, here are some blank pages of my life. Yeah. That's a good question. What would you call your autobiography?
Mine?
Headstrong, obviously.
Yeah. So, I mean, having the surname Strong is good.
It's quite helpful.
It is helpful for...
it's incredibly helpful for
but you, again, Manners as well, that's quite good.
Manners is quite good.
Manners maketh a man.
Manners maketh man. Good manners, bad manners. Mind your manners.
Yeah, mind your manners, I like that.
That's not bad. Yeah. I just think Very Slim by Archie Manners.
It's good. It's very good. But Arch, thanks so much for your time.
My
very
pleasure,
much appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
We got some good stuff, I think.
I've loved every minute.
Great. And that is it for this first episode in the new season, Creatives in Conversation, with me, Louis Strong, on Headstrong. I really hope you enjoyed this episode with Archie Manners. I think we can all agree that he's an incredible character and he's got some great stories, and we wish him all the best with his new podcast, his autobiography potentially in a couple of years, but let's wish him all the best. If you enjoyed this episode, please review it on any platform that you're listening on and tell your family and friends. It's great to spread the word about Headstrong and talk about these episodes to other people. Stay tuned for some exciting guests and join me next week with Bob the Drag Queen. And finally, thank you to you, the listener, for taking the time out of your day or week to click on Headstrong and listen to my conversations. See you next week.